Osio, my name is Dallas Pettigrew. I'm a member citizen of the Cherokee Nation from Adair County, Oklahoma. That's where the Cherokee Trail of Tears ended on this end of it. Um, I'm here with my colleague and friend and sharer of a brain, Cortney Bolt.
Bojo. I'm Courtney Bolt, and I just wanted to kind of start us off by thanking everybody for being here today. We know how valuable your time is, and so any little morsel and minute, we're really grateful for that time. I wanted to, before we kind of get rolling, I wanted to allow Laura some time to run over some logistics about today.
Hi, everyone. Just a couple quick notes to let you know how you can participate because we do want to hear from you throughout the session. The chat is open for everyone. You can say hello to your friends. You can talk to us as hosts and panelists. If you do want your message to go out to everyone, though, before you send it, there's a little drop down next to where it says to. And if you click on that, you'll be able to select who the message goes to. All of the audio lines are muted, but you can virtually raise your hand if you'd like to be unmuted to ask a question so that we know you want to speak to someone. And we can also have you send your questions in anonymously if you'd prefer that route by using the Q&A tool. There's a little checkbox there. If you just want to send a question and not have your name tied to it, that will get to all of the hosts and panelists. And you can use that Q&A and chat at any time throughout if you run into any technical difficulties. I'm here to help. There's also an optional phone number if for some reason your computer audio doesn't work as well that you can call into. That was in the confirmation email you received. And if you click the little up arrow icon next to the audio on the bottom left of your toolbar, you'll be able to switch your speaker and microphone there. Thank you.
Thanks, Laura. So, Courtney and I are here on behalf of the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. And you might have noticed I work at OU too, because I'm wearing all my OU stuff today. Just wanted you to know that right up front for some reason. But we wanted to share with you some information about one of the cool new things we've got to offer called the Tribal Child Welfare Practice Path. Before we get too far into that, though, I think we want to tell you a little bit about some of the other things that the Capacity Building Center has to offer. Is that right?
Mm-hmm. So the Capacity Building Center for Tribes is a tribal collaborative that helps partner with tribes to build capacity, right? And so Dallas is going to pull up our handy dandy PowerPoint today and make sure we're covering all of our bases.
Here we go.
There's essentially kind of three routes you can go when you partner with the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. There is universal, targeted, and tailored. And so first we're going to talk just a little bit about universal. So universal services, we've got, has anybody ever, I'm saying this, heard of the TIE or the Tribal Information Exchange? It is an awesome resource. It includes webinars, training resources, handouts, forms, all kinds, like pretty much anything you can think of. The TIE is on the TIE. So be sure to check out the TIE. We love the TIE. We use it all the time, especially to even extend and enhance the trainings that are provided by the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. Some other things that are available for partnership with tribes is the peer-to-peer groups and one-on-one peer connections. That's when tribes are partnered with other tribes. It's kind of like, hey, why reinvent the wheel? If someone's already done this before and is finding success. And so finding ways to help folks, help tribes build capacity within themselves.
And isn't it great for tribes to learn from other tribes?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, love that.
Another thing that that the Capacity Building Center for Tribes offers is the Leadership Academy. You might see on your screen, Rachel, can we get a wave? Hey, Rachel and Kendra. She is our fearless leader for targeted services, and also is the lead on the Leadership Academy. If you guys haven't had a chance to check out the Leadership Academy, do it. It is worth it. We see the Leadership Academy and also the practice path as kind of going hand in hand. You definitely don't have to do both, but we feel like that they're both enriched when you do them together. A little bit about the Leadership Academy is the goal of the Leadership Academy is really to enhance the skills and abilities of tribal child welfare leaders to support their workforce and improve outcomes for Native children and families. And so through this process, the Academy defines child welfare success from a tribal perspective, which we feel like is unique and different. And it also focuses on leading in 4 different areas across 4 different seasons. So it's leading in context, leading people, leading change, and leading for results. So we're excited about that. We've also heard a lot from tribes that are really digging the Leadership Academy too. And so we hope you'll check them out. So I'm sure if you're interested in hearing more about the Leadership Academy, we've got Kendra and Rachel both on here today. Throw them a note in the chat. I'm sure they'd love to hear from them, and we'd love to connect with you. So, all right. So the targeted services, I mentioned that Rachel is over our targeted services at the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. This practice path, which is what we're going to be talking about today, which is a training that's geared for frontline tribal child welfare workers, is under that targeted services umbrella. Okie doke. All right.
There's a very lifelike picture of Cortney.
Guys, I know everybody's been doing the like Lenza app too thing, but this is my original Lenza. No, this is my original. One of the other resources we have at the Capacity Building Center for Tribes, we have a fantastic design team. So I always want to give a shout out to Angie Bordeaux, who made this like cartoon of me, as she was building the slides for the practice path for me. I love it. It makes me feel like me. I can also never get those little like animation things, right? And so it was like the first time that I saw a cartoon of me looking like myself. So
yeah, and
I love it.
This was like her own art. This was something that she just did. This is not a filter. This is actual art. It's really impressive, I think.
So a little bit about me. I am enrolled as Citizen Potawatomi, and I'm also Red Lake. I am from Hominy, Oklahoma. So I am a little Nishnab. I grew up on the Osage Res. They were nice to me. No, I live in Tulsa now. I work with Dallas at OU. I didn't have my hat on today, but you have to trust me. We work for, I cannot see the Q&As. We work also under the University of Oklahoma at the Center for Tribal Social Work.
It's on my shirt.
Hey, all the strawberries all over everything. And so a little bit about my experience. It says 13, and those are my slides, so I should have fixed that. It's 14 years. I have about 14 years experience in the field. I did primarily, or I worked for the state, dun, dun, dun. But I did, as an Indigenous person, grew up in the field working in my community, which is, if any of you guys work in the communities that you grew up in, it's a whole nother lens and perspective. It's not for the weak, I would say. This job is not for the weak. But my background is really in kinship and traditional foster care, also in family finding. A lot of folks in Oklahoma call me Kinship Cortney. It is a badge I wear with pride. I did investigations, a lot of family group conferencing, and program development. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. I'm that auntie. Hey.
We don't just call her Kinship Cortney. We call her all kinds of things.
Hopefully to my face.
Oh yeah. No. We don't actually. No, we call her Cool Cortney and Killer Cortney.
I like
and
that.
Really great Cortney. Here's a bit about me. Like I said earlier, I'm a citizen of the Cherokee Nation. I grew up in Stillwell, Oklahoma, which is in Adair County. I now live here in Tulsa. work for OU and in the Center for Tribal Social Work. We're strong partners with the Capacity Building Center for Tribes. We're fortunate to have that relationship with them. I have 15 years of experience in tribal child welfare, either practice or administration or both, back and forth. I'm also a dad to a kid I adopted out of foster care, and you can see him right there. That's him right here in this picture. Anyway, he's now 27 years old, and I adopted him when he was 14. So I met him when he was 14. The adoption was when he was 17. So Cortney and I came together because we wanted to make sure the tribal child welfare professionals had access to really strong, high quality training that comes from a tribal perspective. Mm-hmm. So that's what we hope to deliver through the tribal child welfare practice path. We are so happy to be joined by our good friends from the Ho-Chunk Nation, Valerie Black Deer. And so we'll ask her to introduce herself real quick, and then we'll ask Erica to jump in after that. So Valerie, there.
Good afternoon. Hi, I'm Valerie Blackdeer. I am the Child and Family Services Division Director for the Ho-Chunk Nation in Black River Falls, Wisconsin. I have, I need updated to 35 years of experience in tribal and state child welfare and administration now. And I am also have been a foster and adoptive parent, and just wanted to comment because we had some conversation about it. The Chakotay K that is in the my picture was drew by my second heart baby that came to us when he was 4 days old, and he just has a very, very old spirit and has come a long ways. He was a drug impacted baby and couldn't tell a difference now. His challenges, he's been able to overcome them. And part of my intensiveness about the tribal pathways is that there's so much more. So the work that needs to be done in child welfare. And I really think that tribal pathway shows what a best practices, no matter what you're doing when you're in social work. It's really an awesome way to go. My whole staff has experienced it, and as we got to be a pilot, which was awesome. And then our supervisors all did the tribal academy leadership. So that I'm just a big fan of this and support this, and I'm excited to be here today. Welcome.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Val. We're a big fan of y'all too.
For sure. We gave her the pilot version of this back when it was really rough.
It was a little rugged.
Yeah. So now we're joined by Erica Traver. She's an MSW and an APSW. She's a Ho-Chunk Nation as well. So we'd like to invite her to say hello now. Erica?
Alrighty. Hi, everybody. So my name is Erica Traver. I am an enrolled Ho-Chunk tribal member, and I currently am a supervisor of the ICW program with Ho-Chunk Nation. I'm from the Baraboo area, but I commute up to Black River. It's a little bit over an hour. It's a nice scenic drive. I'm kind of a baby still to the system. I've only been 5 years of experience. Most of it's been an investigation, but I've dabbled in ongoing, and now I'm in my own little niche of ICW. And I really like to crochet. It's kind of like my passion project. I think I have a whole room full of yarn. So my husband doesn't like it, but it's always great fun for me.
We appreciate you so much for being here with us today. In a little while, you'll hear more from our friends from the Ho-Chunk Nation, Valerie and Erica.
Thank you guys again for joining us.
Yeah. Okay.
So I am a little bit about, you might be asking, like, that's all nice. What are we here to talk about today? We're here to talk about the Tribal Child Welfare Practice Path, which we feel like it's really kind of a braid of tribal child welfare practice, professional social work practice, and indigenous ancestral knowledge. The purpose of this training is really to equip frontline tribal child welfare workers with foundational knowledge and culturally based, trauma-informed practice lens that they need to serve all our kiddos for the next 7 generations. So we really do view this as more of a lens training, and so setting that foundation before we move into skills. So as participants are developing their new lens, in the way that they're looking at themselves and looking at their families that they serve, they'll be introduced to new skills and tools to help support their practice in the field of tribal child welfare.
I just want to remind everybody to type your questions into the Q&A section if you like, or you can type into the chat and we will address them in both those places. So there are some definite benefits for tribes if they go through, we believe, if they go through the practice path. We believe this will provide a standardized training for new tribal child welfare staff, like how states often have, in Oklahoma, they call it CORE, where every child welfare worker for the state of Oklahoma from all 77 counties or however many areas and districts and whatever divisions they have now, they all go through the same sort of training so that everybody speaks the same language and they are supposed to know the policies and the practices.
In Oklahoma, the training is it's like 8 or 9 weeks long.
Very long.
It's very long. And then, and so one of the things that we have noticed is it's like, that's good training, but it's also not done from a tribal perspective. It looks like folks sending their staff to a training that's good, but might not really apply to their jobs very much, as tribal child welfare staff. We also recognize that, folks come into this work in a lot of different ways. I think one of my favorite tribal child welfare workers that I ever saw was like a plumber, right? He started out as a plumber. And so like I was political science of all things, and Creator, steered me into this job. And I do feel like it's where I'm supposed to be, but folks come in from a lot of different backgrounds, right? And so one of the, some of the challenges, and I know I'm probably preaching to the choir right now, is that, depending upon what your educational background and your experience background, folks are coming in with different skills, different strengths. And sometimes there's gaps, right? And so what happens is you either spend too much time, in covering everything thoroughly, or you spend not enough time covering things that, like foundational skills and building competencies and building that lens, and than you would if you were to have a training that was created just for you.
We also know that there are hundreds of tribes, federally recognized tribes across the United States, and we can't develop a single curricula that will work exactly perfectly for every single tribe. These tribes exist in different states. Often they're in multiple states at one time. The Indian Child Welfare Act gives tribes jurisdiction over their children's child welfare cases no matter where they are. So we can't make one training that covers every single base. What we did try to do was build a training that gives that foundation that Cortney described.
So it looks more like building creative or creative problem solving, and also critical thinking over just focusing on like training someone how to complete a form really well, or a checkbox. Some of the things that I saw a fair amount, pro-con and working at the state, is that I saw workers that were really good at filling out a box, but they really struggled to assess safety or to make decisions that were in that child or the family's best interest, because they were kind of bound to this very rigid way of thinking, or this very rigid, linear process. And
we're trying to free workers from the checklist. We want them to be able to think on their own in the moment and do the right thing.
So this training really, it focuses on the internal supports that we feel like are needed to promote best practice, and really gives Indian child welfare workers a opportunity to build a trauma-informed, culturally based practice lens, so that they can serve their communities in a way that meets the needs of the community. And it's also consistent with who they are.
So our target audience is, we expect expected this to be for frontline tribal child welfare workers, and we kind of thought it would be for newish, beginning early career tribal child welfare workers who are seeking to build or enhance their foundational practice skills and knowledge.
One of the things we've seen, caffeine hits my bloodstream, is that we've seen that a lot of times, a lot of the directors that have approached us about this training have felt like after they got to know more about it, they wanted to send their whole team. They wanted to send their whole staff. And so actually we've had the opportunity to facilitate this training 3 different times, and all 3 times it was to the entire child welfare staff, and 2 times it was their entire social like children and family services. So we had folks that were also working in elder care and daycare licensing and foster care licensing as well.
I mean, and that makes a lot of sense too. If these frontline new workers are getting this training, their supervisors probably want to have it too, so they'll know what their workers are learning about, and they can all talk about it together. So that way the new workers not coming back and saying, hey, we learned all this stuff today that you don't know anything about. How are we going to talk about it? And we really want to encourage our workers, or the workers who go through this training, to be in constant communication with their supervisors and be checking in a lot.
So who is eligible? So who's eligible for this training is any tribal child welfare programs that are receiving 4B or 4E funding. It is made intentionally for all experience levels and all education levels. We feel somewhat confident that applies. So the folks, we've received a lot of really good feedback from folks who have even been in the field 20 some years, and so feeling good about that. Cohort size, usually around about 12 to 22 folks. We feel like, primarily we have facilitated this training so far with single tribe within, single tribes, but we also are looking for opportunities to facilitate to a cohort of tribes. I've got a big heart for, little small tribes. If you can get some buddies, buddy up, and we'll do this training. That is something that is big on our heart, and we'd love to do that with you.
Yeah, for sure.
So you'll notice strawberries all over everything.
Even my shirt?
If you have any Nishnabs in the house, Anishinaabe people, we love our strawberries, right? We love our florals. And I use a story that was entrusted to be by my grandma about the lessons that we learned from strawberries to help teach how to be in the field.
Like, that's the picture.
So yeah.
My grandma.
This is me and my grandma. So the training design is set up into 4 modules. So workers will go through the heart, the head, ways, and tools. It is 8 3-hour sessions, so about half days, depending upon the needs of the tribe though, and your needs of your workforce. We've facilitated that, all in one day. Initially, when we developed this training, it was done in the middle of COVID, right? And everybody was a little Zoom trained. I personally think 3 hours is about as max as I can be on, on the Zoom train, doing training. And so we tried to make it, and I say palatable bites, bite size, so that folks could spend half a day in training and then return to their work, because we know the work doesn't stop. So that's why it's set up in 8 3-hour sessions, but those sessions are flexible as to scheduling, depending upon what you feel like your needs could be. The design again is informed by my Anishinaabe cultural heritage. I was very fortunate to have grown up in my ways, and I really drew on that to help inform, kind of merging these worlds of promoting workers to show up as yourself, show up as yourself in your ways. Native peoples have known what was best for our communities since time immemorial, right? And so we hope that, that is the ethos that we promote as a part of this training, and we hope that it's evident. And so another thing that you'll notice too, is I promise for my non-Nishnabs, is that we're not trying to turn you into Anishinaabe people, right? Like, you will notice that a lot of it is done from Anishinaabe perspective, but that's not to say that we're the only way, right? It's just that ethically we believe that, like, I can only do things from my perspective, and we invite other folks to bring their perspectives and bring their own unique, rich tribal perspectives into the room, right? So it's kind of like set up in a format of like, hey, this is how I understand it. How do you guys understand it, right? How do y'all understand it? Promoting, drawing off of those cultural ways as a way of driving practice. So. Next one. So some of the core values and core understandings of this training, and a way to kind of wrap your brain around why it's set up into the heart, head, ways, and tools. It goes back to, again, the Anishinaabe way of the Mano B'madzwin, right? And so it's the good life, or how to live the good life, is what loosely what that translates as. And so the way I was taught, by my grandma, my aunties, and my elders, is that we're taught that we're supposed to be keeping our hearts in a good way. It's like, what do we want for our workers in the field? Is we want them to be living good, balanced lives. We want that for the families and the children that we serve, but we want it for our workers too. And so what that looks like is teaching folks how to keep their hearts in a good way, right? And to also find balance between their heart and their head. And so, my grandma used to say this, is that, you should be making your decisions from your heart, right? Which I know is kind of controversial in this kind of, I say Western, with a Western lens, is that we're taught, and like, oh, don't make emotional decisions. Oh, don't make these, decisions with your heart, or you're thinking about things with your feelings, But my people believe that that was the truest way to make a decision. And that is that when things start going off track, right, is because people are making decisions from their heart, but they haven't done the work to keep their heart in a good way. Right. And so within our heart, what the Anishinaabe people believe is like that's where our teachings, our 7 grandfathers, our medicine, our spirit, our ancestors, that's where they live. Right. And so recognizing that when we reconnect to who we are, right, and who our ancestors made us to be, right, that we will make good decisions. We will make decisions that will serve the best interest of our families and our children's. Right. And so when we talk about making decisions between your heart and your head, is that there has to be that balance too. My grandma used to say that, your heart is your decision maker. She's your anchor, right? And your head extends that understanding, right? It provides the context. It's always gathering data, right? And so one of the things that we've seen quite a bit, is in this field, when we do a lot of trainings and we hear a lot of trainings, all these trainings are from here, right? How to do lists, how to look around and see. But when you make decisions from here and you forget who you are, you get lost, and that's what my grandma used to say. She used to say, the heart makes better decisions when she's done in accordance and in balance with the head, right? She can make decisions by herself, right? They're just not going to have as much context. But the head without the heart will get lost. And I think that really speaks to something that we've seen a fair amount. Awesome. Is that we've seen a fair amount of folks get lost. When we get off in the weeds, and we're like, how am I making these decisions that we don't like? That didn't feel good. And we know that we're working in a silver linings business, but what we hope is to bring folks back to their roots for who they are, right? And to encourage them to drive from their values, from their tribal values, because we believe in them, right? And so that's, that is the kind of the value base of this training, and that's why we spend a lot of time doing heart work and head work, because we feel like that if you don't have your heart and your head right, any decision or any process or any skill that you learn outside of that foundation is not going to be as good, right? But if you build these and this first, we set ourselves up for being able to work in an adaptive way, right? In a way that's going to meet your needs. So another route, and this is something that's prevalent too, if you guys are familiar with, professional social work concepts, such as, cognitive behavioral therapy, it's that we believe that how we think and feel will be reflected in how we view and interact with ourselves and others. And so kind of to extend that same thing about keeping your heart in a good way, if I'm driving from a place where I got stink in my heart, right, then the way that I interact with the world is going to be impacted by that stink. The thing that I say, the way that I see other folks, right? And so we believe that, Indigenous people, we've had this wisdom since time immemorial, right? And so I'm going to say that, cognitive behavioral therapy caught up with us, which is what we believe. And so, in order to heal our families, we got to start healing ourselves first too. We're not trying to pass down that trauma. We're not, it's the worst game of tag ever, where I'm passing off my issues onto my families. So, that's our hope in this thing. And so next you might ask, okay, what does that look like? Okay, so here is our content. It's kind of broken up into 4 content areas in the heart, head, ways, and tools. And so we start out in the heart with our shared values and responsibilities. We spend some time too walking that pathway. It's like, how do we get here? So providing some historical context to, I should say intergenerational trauma. I like the term, I feel like I connect better with the term intergenerational trauma rather than historical trauma, because it's something that we're still living in today, or I'm definitely still living in today, like a lot of us are, for being Indigenous and working in this field. We don't spend too much time. I don't think that we spend too much time. We spend enough time. We know that as content areas, we've all said in those trainings over and over and over, I feel like if anything, we get pretty trained up on on historical trauma. And so we do spend a little bit of time, but not too much. We talk about trauma and child development. So we're talking about intergenerational trauma, and then seeing how that can how that shows up in families today and present, in behaviors and in child development, and also in the behaviors of the parents and the families we serve. We don't just lead it all into trauma and then drop you guys off because that's mean, right? But we do cover protective factors and talk about resiliency in a way to be able to view situations and draw strengths out of the situation. So
the heart is really all about the motivation and the sort of
the why.
Yeah, the inspiration, the feeling, the emotional part of why we do this work, what draws us to this work. It's because of our heart. Our heart pulls us in that direction.
I will say too, it is a lot more, just like surprise, it is more introspective than I think most folks are used to, because workers are asked to not just look at this from like a academic space. They're asked to do some work, right? And so recognizing what I got cooking in here, right, as a vehicle for promoting better practice and healing in the field, is addressing our own stuff.
Yeah.
So
a lot of us are in this work because we've been involved in this sort of situation before we were professionals. When we were children, we needed the ICWA ourselves. And during the Heart Day, people will be getting a little vulnerable, and they'll be considering their own childhood and their own history and their own family situations. And it can be kind of a heavy day for some folks, but we're going through it together, and we believe that it's going to help us with our relationship building, and it's through our relationships that we're going to do all the rest of these 3 sections. We're going to do them well. We're going to do them together.
I would say the heart time, people feel most uncomfortable about it, but then it also at the end, it ends up being their favorite,
Yeah.
right?
Every time.
And so every time, and so that's kind of what our experience has been. So after we cover our heart, we get into our head. So this is where we're examining our lens. We get into the imposter phenomenon. If you guys have heard of that before, we spend some good time. That's another fun, uncomfortable one. We share the strawberry story, which we'll share if you guys end up deciding to come train with us. We unpack privilege and bias and navigate systems theory. And so we spend some time in developing our lens in our head day. In ways, we are starting, so we've gone to heart, head, ways. And so ways is what that looks like in action. We've done our internal work. Now we're into our hands, right? And so we talk about ethics. So applying these values and these things that we're seeing into the field. We do engagement. Cultural teaching, or engaging with cultural humility and respect. So how to work with Indigenous families in your community. We do rapport building. And so you'll notice, and then we start getting into some of the tools, which Eagle Maps, which I think Erica's going to talk about a little bit later. If you guys have done eco maps before, this is kind of real similar to that, but we have them Eagle Maps. We feel like there's a little flair to that. And then lastly, in tools, we've already gone through, this is our tools, what to hold in your hand, in your basket. So intro to working with families, strength-based assessment, SMART goal setting. So how to set goals with folks, and then how to make plans, or set goals, make plans with folks, and then how to follow up on those plans, right? We recognize that checking back in on progress is one of the hardest things we do. And so how can we do that in a good way? And that is, we believe that's strength-based feedback. So we teach, that's one of the tools things.
And we approach everything through strengths-based approaches, and we'll teach that too. So we get the heart, which is our like feeling and emotions. We've got our motivations. We've got our head, which is our knowing and our thinking. We've got our ways, which is about the work. And we've got our tools, which are our helps to do the work. All those things go together to make our think a really well-rounded child welfare professional.
So again, this is not a skills training. We do teach skills, but we focus on lens, just because we feel like it's more sustainable and adaptive to be trained from, across tribes, across states. And we really focus on internal work as foundational skills for practice.
We're thinking of this more like a chess game than a checkers game, right? It's not just about hopping over the other color. It's about thinking 18 moves out and thinking strategically, and being able to think critically in the context, in the moment, and do what's right for the child and family.
So here are a couple of the strengths that we feel like we're going to talk about, but then we're going to go kind of quickly through this and talk to our folks who, it's like, what are your strengths? Like, let's hear it from people who have actually been through this. We didn't pay them, I promise. They deserved all the pay, but we didn't. No bribes have been given.
Our budget doesn't have that yet.
Yeah, we don't have that yet. But we thought, what would we want to know? Really, if we were y'all, we would want to hear from people who have already been through it. Like, yes, of course, Cortney and Dallas are going to like this training because they made it, right? But let's hear from folks who have actually been through it. These were some of the things we felt like were strengths. Is live tailoring is a term we call where we essentially, it allows us to work with a lot of different tribes, where you ask for folks to show up as experts in the room. Or we draw expertise out of the room. So instead of saying, this is the way, we're not coming to colonize your tribes, right? Like, this is the way you need to do that. We would say, we might say something like, this is how we do it. How do you guys do it, right? Let's learn from each other and draw those strengths out, versus coming to just come storming in and tell people what to do.
We don't tell anybody what to do.
No. We do very much use a relational approach, and you'll notice this is kind of our podcasty vibe, I guess, is that we believe in showing up at work as yourself, right? We believe that we can be relational and connected and normal, right? We can be ourselves, and that ourselves are enough. And so we want to promote that value too in modeling that. And so that looks like us being ourselves, being kind of silly sometimes. We do tell stories, lots of storytelling, and connection as a relational way of training content.
And we dress like we dress.
We dress
right?
like we dress.
We're not getting all fancied up to come and try to impress anybody with how fancy we can be.
Yeah.
We're gonna come to you in the way that we actually are,
Mm-hmm.
and not putting on a show.
So
and we want that from everybody
warning,
else too.
and also yay.
I mean, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We do feel like this promotes resiliency and strength-based tools. So we try to, everything we do try to promote resiliency and strength-based practice in what we're doing. We also recognize that trauma content is hard, it's hard to consume or to receive, and it's hard to deliver as Indigenous people, right? This isn't just something that we learned about, it's something that we're living. Okay. And so we try to take care of ourselves and our folks when we're in the space. And so that what that looks like is we had some help from the Native Children's Trauma Institute in helping develop some grounding exercises that we promote, use, and practice throughout the training, right? So we believe that is promotes more of a intentional trauma-informed way of being.
It is because we are so close to our history. We're not learning about an abstract history of something that happened to a lot of people a long time ago. We're learning about what happened to our people a generation ago, or maybe 2 generations ago, and these are our relatives. So we feel very close to this trauma, and so we address it very delicately and deliberately.
So these are some of the things.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry.
These are some of the things that we offer as a part of this training package. And so the folks will get there'll be an orientation and a handbook. We also provide some links and resources to the Tribal Information Exchange and a resource guide to help folks extend the training. And so, because if we feel like this is the first stop, we provide access to the next stops. There's a supervisor orientation and a mentor guide too. And then as needed, we also do, depending on the needs of the tribe, we would have available up to 4 post-session learning circles to support transfer of learning. So what that looks like, lunch and learns, to sit in, check in and say, hey, do you want to ask questions? Or, hey, I was having a hard day, or we had a lot going on that day and I'd like to revisit that topic. So we have that too, available as needed, and to help make sure that folks have the opportunity to access,
Just between you and me, I mean, all 71 of you, 69 of you and us, you're going to have our email addresses, and you can email us if you have any questions, or if you want to gather together and have a discussion, we can totally do that.
Absolutely. We're accessible, regular folks.
Yeah, we're real people.
So lastly, before we get into talking a little bit more from our Ho-Chunk folks, is that we feel like that the practice path really isn't about moving forward. It's really about returning to who we are as Indigenous people and allowing our tribal values, identities, and ancestral knowledge to inform how we do this work. Because
science is catching up to what we've always known, finally.
Awesome.
Okay, so we get to bring in the voices of the people who've been through it. We're going to interview Valerie Blackdeer and Erica. I'm not going to say her name wrong because we've been saying it wrong.
Traver,
not
if
Tarver.
If you guys have heard me bragging about Erica Tarver all over Turtle Island, I was actually bragging about Erica Traver, and I'm sorry.
Okay, so I'm going to stop this screen share so we can all see everybody's beautiful faces.
Awesome.
So Valerie and Erica, thank you so much for being here and for sharing with us today. So Valerie, maybe you could start with the first one. What was it that drew you to choosing the practice path for your staff?
I can get unmuted. Actually, we were, and we still are, working with the tribal capacity for building with some projects that we're doing. And it just so happened we were talking about wanting to make sure that all of our workers were getting that approach. And I think the Leadership Academy came up. So it was actually brought to us about, would you be interested in sending some of your staff? And we're like, yeah, we'd like to do our whole staff. So that's how the pilot got started. For us, at least, was just us saying, we don't want to just send a few. We think it would be good for everyone. And then at that same time, we were given the opportunity to do the Leadership Academy. Now, as supervisors, people were thinking, oh yeah, we'd like to be able to also find out what's going on in tribal paths. So that is how the supervisor guide came in. And then we were able to be a part of the lunch and learns or whatever it was that we did afterwards, to be able to have those discussions and the work and practice and the discussion that had happened. So it happened with us because of our work with Tribal Capacity Center.
And thank you again for being the first group that went with this through it. So you talked about it was you made it available for your whole. You wanted everybody to go through it. So will you describe your program, like your number of staff and the way you're set up, so that others in the audience can hear and maybe think about whether it would work for their setup?
Sure. We have our individuals that are called initial response, and they take the intakes of abuse and neglect that come in. Actually, they do abuse and neglect for children and vulnerable adults and elders. And then we have our ICW program, which Erica supervises, and that's basically our county state cases where we intervene in from the Indian Child Welfare Act. And then we have our investigative, or it's actually child welfare assessment and intervention. So those are our workers that take those initial calls and go out. And I have to say, part of what we were doing with tribal child welfare is we want to do more a preventative approach rather than just going out and removing children. So that's sort of leaning where our assessment and intervention, and we are very proud to say that over the last 4 months, at least, that or since July, we have actually had more cases ending up in our intervention than actual investigative part. So we're excited about that part of it. And I do think that this tribal pathway, I want to give some credit to it that it's helped us in doing that also.
Thank you for that.
And then we have our tribal court program, which has our ongoing child protection cases. And then we also have our placement homes where we certify placement homes. And we then also have our adults protection and prevention. But one thing we've learned is that in tribal programming, a lot of our cases overlap because many of our grandparents are also, the elders are also caring for younger family members. So we wanted everyone to hear that, because I think the practice across the board mixes, because for the most part, we're working across the board. We're connected with elders, adults, everyone. It's about that family concept of who we need involved in our programming. So we went across the board that way. And then we have our administration who our supervisors, but again, they did, except for Erica, who is a frontline worker first, and then we pulled her into supervision. So she got to do both of them. But we had that across the board practice then with the Leadership Academy.
Well, speaking of that, what about the demographic breakdown of your employees? Are they all tribal citizens? Are they all members of the Ho-Chunk Nation? Are they members of other tribes?
No, it's a combination of, we have some that are tribal members, which I am happy to have any tribal members that want to come work for us. But the one thing that we have found is that the demographic is that Ho-Chunk is not, although reservation has been discussed through BIA status because we had a little reservation sign put up a month or so ago and it was taken down. I have been told that it is trust land and fee simple, but I guess that it must be some level of reservation too, but we're scattered throughout many different communities. Actually, for our health department, there's 15 different counties that are seen to be the area, but pretty much all the state of Wisconsin, our tribal court covers our jurisdiction under our tribal courts. Wherever a Ho-Chunk resides, we have jurisdiction. So
Okay.
we're not in just one little area. Social workers travel long distances sometimes to investigate and intervene. Wisconsin, 72 counties, plus sometimes going out of state.
Wow. Okay.
And we have about, right now we have 28 staff.
Awesome.
Well,
So I know you mentioned a little bit about some of the changes that you've seen. What I heard you say was about that you felt like your increase of prevention cases might in part be attributed to, that different lens from folks going through the practice path. Have you seen any other changes in your staff really since going through? Either Erica or Valerie, either.
I mean, for my staff, the rate of conflicting out of cases has dropped dramatically. It was a big talking point throughout the pathways for us, and how when we're enrolled members and we're working within our community, we don't have the luxury of conflicting out of everything, and like how to truly set those boundaries. So I've noticed a big change in that area.
wow.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's important
would
that we adapt for that. So I'm sorry, go ahead, Valerie.
I was going to say, I would agree across the board that is one thing that staff has learned, and we've pulled that in even on the supervisory level, because we've got a lot of staff that have worked for a long length of time, that even though they're not tribal members, they have developed relationships in the community, know people in the community, are just connected because of our connections across the board. And so we have had many conversations about that sort of group decision making almost within the staff community as to that issue of conflicting out. Erica and I have had several conversations just within ourselves about how do we handle this and how do we do this, and yeah, I know this person, but it's not going to interrupt my decision making, but I still want to run this past you, and who else should we bring into the discussion? I agree that is a big part of change that I think is made. It's a positive impact.
I want to just give some high fives there, because it's true. The ethics in Indian country are just a bit different than they are in other places of the world, where we can't help but have multiple relationships with the people that we're working with, because we're so small, we're so close knit, we're all related. So it's all about role clarification at that point. And I'm happy to hear that you all are putting that all into practice really well.
That's awesome. And so I know we're getting kind of close on time. I do want to make sure, Erica, if you would honor us by telling us a little bit about how the introduction of Eagle Maps has changed practice.
Sure. So when we were going through and you guys were talking about eco mapping and such, I was like, we can make this more native. And so what we did is we created eco mapping. And the idea behind it was giving our clients informal supports and helping show them that, especially when they're, in a bind or uncomfortable, going through any sort of situation, that they have a network that was identified when they were clear-headed. And it's a visual representation that we leave with them, and it's something that they can reflect on. So if they're reaching out to our interventionist and they're like, I have nobody but you, the idea is to re-navigate them back to their informal supports. So our job is to work ourselves out of a job, essentially. So by identifying all of their informal supports, it allows them to really see and showcase them like healthy relationships, but also the unhealthy relationships or the strained relationships. And kind of show them like, you have so many spoons, this person's taking a lot of your spoons. Is it really a good utilization of your spoons? So it's just a good way for them to see their own support network through their, how they're seeing it, and visual representation and reminder of it. So it's something new. It's something that our staff doesn't like doing this another step, but it's really working out pretty well from my understanding.
That's awesome. Good to hear. I mean, we felt like too that it was one of those things where it is a little bit recognizing, I think you were investigation CPS. Yeah. I'm an old CPS girl too, but taking a little bit of time in the front end, right, to invest in assessing what supports and strengths and protective factors that we've got already boots on the ground right now, before we just run into what's going wrong. We take a little more time to identify what's going right, so that we can build safety from the safe, versus from just only cutting off everything. And so, which I think is a bigger discussion about Indigenous ways of finding safety, right? Versus only being able to find safety through isolationism, right? And so, power of community, I'm telling you. So thank you guys so much again for sharing with us about your experiences. That really makes my heart full.
I know. I wish we had more time to just hang out with you guys here. I know. But we've got like 3 minutes left. So we've got 3 minutes left.
We're gonna get back on our slides just really quick. So these were some of the lessons too, which is consistent with all the stuff Val and Erica were saying that were pulled out of our evaluations. We found out that workers really they preferred kind of afternoon trainings, especially for trauma content. They like the smaller group discussions for introverts. Believe it or not, I'm an introvert. I know I don't look like it, but I am. So turning off their cameras, we allowed them, when they were Ho-Chunk, we did a virtual delivery. For some of the other two deliveries, we've done a blended model. So we've done half in person and half virtual. But they really appreciated it, especially around trauma content, being able to have some of that emotional space back. Folks really liked that relational personal style training. They liked us being real and just being our authentic selves. Implication for practice. These are some of the other things that we've heard a couple times before from the field. So relational approaches are effective for engagement and learning. Folks really felt supported and being able to drive from their own cultural values that they already had. So being able to pull, we're Anishinaabe people, we're seven grandfather people, right? And so being able to make that decision from that place, and recognizing that when we do that is actually best practice. Opening those discussions up in a professional setting is good. Folks felt like that relational way of being, we heard from Valerie too, is it improves trust. When folks are engaging the community in a way that is more culturally respectful and walking in that humility, that it does foster trust with the community, and then promoting a lens that we're slowing down and taking more of that eagle's eye view, which is where the eagle mapping, like that word, comes from, right? So we're taking a minute, and rather than just making a rush decision, taking a minute, and really improving the quality of the decisions that we make. So.
Yeah. And we really invite people to give us feedback from their tribe's perspectives too, because Cortney and I, we're two tribes. I mean, I represent the Cherokee Nation a bit, and Cortney can represent her tribes a bit, but we can't represent all tribes. So we depend on the things we learn from our people who we're with to tell us more things about what's right for their context.
Thank you again. It looks like we're coming right up on the hour.
Yeah, we are.
We cut it right down to the minute. That's what we do. Here is my contact information. So feel free to reach out to me by email. You can also reach out to Dallas. Let me see information on Leadership Academy. Yes.
I'm somewhere.
Travel.
I'll put it in here.
Okay. And we'll stay on too for a little bit
Yeah.
to answer questions. We just wanted to respect your time because we know sometimes you only get like a skinny hour in the middle of the day.
So we do travel to do trainings, and we're looking into seeing if we can host one in Tulsa where people can travel into us. So like smaller tribes don't have very many people. We can get multiple of those tribes together to build one cohort, and if they all want to just join us in Tulsa, that'd be super convenient for me. So we're thinking maybe if it's not in Tulsa, it'll be some central location for that tribe or those tribes.
So what we would do next usually is if you send us an email, we'll meet with you on a Zoom, set up a Zoom to talk more. You know, we can spend a little bit more time too unpacking any of the things we talked about today and more. We can also talk more about, you know, the needs of your tribe if you feel like it's, hey, this is what we would need. So any of this time, if you start thinking either, you know, later today or even, you know, next week, or, you know, I'm an introvert again. Sometimes it takes me a minute to wrap my brain around something, but please feel free to reach out and ask us any questions. We try to be as adaptive as possible. So we try to meet folks where they are, right? And so the answer to, you know, as far as training delivery is usually we can find a way to meet you what you need.
Well, the thing is, we've both done this work ourselves, and we know child welfare work doesn't stop because you go to training. So we can't ask you to travel for 2 weeks to come sit and relax for a long training with us in a convenient, comfortable spot. So we think it's probably better for you if we come to you and then we do half days, and we even take a day off in the middle so that people can still do their jobs while they're doing this training.
Yeah.
We take breaks every 45 minutes to 60 minutes. We don't ever have long periods without breaks because people need to be able to check their emails. They got to be able to return their calls. So we try to keep in account that your work continues while you're training, and we want to make that both of those work together. So thank you all so much for being here. We want to especially thank our Ho-Chunk friends, Erica and Valerie. We could not have done this without you. Thank you for being our first folks to go through this with us and for joining us here today to talk about your experience. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We're also grateful to have Rachel and Kendra here with us, and also Laura, who's behind the scenes doing all of the magical stuff it takes to make these things come together. Thank you all for helping us so much. And with that said, I think this program has come to an end.
Hey.
We're going to stick around, though. If you want to stick around too, we'll chat with you. And whenever you're all gone, we'll be gone as well.